What's up, y'all? My name is Ben. I am the founder of Goalink and the host of this podcast, The Goalink Show. If this is your first time here, welcome. And if it's not, it's your first time seeing this anyway, because this is our first YouTube recorded visual for the podcast. And thank you to Subtle Solutions for filming it, so check them out. And I'm excited for this. You guys are going to enjoy this interview. And if you want to know more about Goalink, what we are, what we do, we're a goal-setting community issuing weekly challenges to avoid complacency. So if you're looking to level up and grow, you're always looking for learning opportunities and to push yourself and to embrace the challenge, then you're in the right place. Stay tuned for after the interview to find out more. Let's go.
All right, y'all. How we doing?
Oh, I'm good. Oh, yeah. Sorry. My mouth was full.
That's awesome. So we have Ted and Jess and Ted. Thank you for being here. This is my first video podcast, which is awesome. This is fun. On a rooftop, which is dope. Mm-hmm. Gorgeous Greenville behind us. And we're here to talk mostly about, who knows what else can come up, but mostly relationships. Mm-hmm. And you two are the guinea pigs.
Here we go.
So thank you. So here we go. This will be dope. Just real quick, tell us the story of like how you guys met.
All right.
You want to take this away? Let's do the spark notes of it.
Yeah, I'll do my perspective. I went to visit a friend of mine in SUNY Albany. I'd already graduated. We were both in the same fraternity. I went up to visit him, and there was a fraternity party mixer, and I'm there for all about maybe 10, 15 minutes, and this girl walks in, and I tap my buddy on the shoulder, and I point at Jess, and I go, "She's a problem."
Yeah.
And little did I know, 4 or 5 years later, we'd start dating.
And that's what's crazy, though. It's 4 or 5 years later. So what happened in between that time?
Yeah, so people ask, they think it's like crazy when we talk about that. We're like, we actually met 5 years ago. They're like, oh, so you've known each other for a while. And we're like, no, we were just doing that, like, you go to the party, you get drunk, and you like become the best of friends, and then you never talk again. And that's pretty much what happened. And then so when I moved to Charlotte, that same mutual friend kind of connected us again.
And are you from New York originally too?
Yeah, so I'm from upstate New York, up by Poughkeepsie.
Upstate? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
I'm from Long Island.
Long Island, yeah. So
Born
we're like
and
3
raised.
hours apart.
Yeah.
We never went to college together at the same time. So it's just like crazy how it works. And then when I came here, kind of at the time I moved without a job, so I had a lot of free time on my hands, and I never heard of Greenville, so I came down to check it out.
Yeah.
I tell Ted all the time, I said he was flirting with me when I came down here, which made
No, I wasn't.
It made me feel very uncomfortable, because I was like, uh-oh, I don't know what this guy thought that I was coming down here for. And then I came back 3 weeks later for Memorial Day weekend, and that's when a spark just kind of happened.
Yeah.
So, and we just passed Memorial Day, so how many years ago was that?
So that's 3.
3 years.
Yeah.
Going strong.
Yep.
Hey.
At the time when we met back in college, I said she was a problem, and we were just, we were at the party.
Yeah.
I actually had a girlfriend at the time, so I was on my best behavior. We had fun and just became Facebook friends.
Oh, yeah.
And you know how Facebook does a time hop? The day after, I just remember I messaged her. I was like, hey, it was nice meeting you. Maybe next time you won't keep stealing my drink. And that was probably the only interaction we had, other than like a happy birthday here and there for the next 3-4 years. So when my buddy Dave said, hey, do you remember that girl Jessica? I actually was like, I think so. And then when she moved to Charlotte, I know what it's like moving to a new city.
Yeah.
So I kind of just offered to show her around, and
I was
help her
literally
get
in
lay
the
of
car
land.
driving from New York to Charlotte, and he like messaged me. He's like, hey, congrats on your move.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm still weird. I just got the chills, and I just got them again. Like, isn't that crazy though? It's just weird to think back. Like, you met someone and you have no idea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that they'll be in your future at some
forever.
point.
You know, like that's so cool.
Yeah.
It is really cool.
It's mind blowing. Like, it really. It's so
and
cool.
Go ahead.
You go day in and day out, right? Thinking you're looking for that person, or you're trying to meet somebody, and the whole time, you know, the universe is like, you already met them.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But you have no idea.
That's cool. So, what would you say to anybody who, I don't know, like, who maybe feels like they met that person or they haven't met that person and it doesn't work out right now? What is your advice of, maybe it works out in the future, maybe it doesn't, but like, what do you say to that person? I'd like to hear male and female perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I just think like if like, we've all been there at some point. You never know
Yeah.
who's going to actually work out, especially when you're younger. So we've all had that feeling, but, like, the truth is, like, you know, like, when you know, you know. And I remember I used to, like, always ask myself that question, like, how do I know when I'm going to be with the person? Like,
Yeah,
they always say, like, the one, and you're like, how are you going to know? But, like, if somebody comes into your life, they say they come into your life for a reason or a season or a lifetime. And, like, I just think everything does happen for a reason. And so if it's not meant for you to be at that time, it's easier to let it go and be civil in a relationship because you never know what's going to happen down the road. I mean, Ted kind of experienced this himself with a past relationship.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were going to touch on that, but...
Yeah, I was going to touch on the fact of, I mean, if you're not in love with yourself, how can you expect somebody else to be in love with you?
Yes.
I think when me and Jess met, or when we kind of like started hanging out after we met, I think I was in a process of just falling in love with myself so much that when you're hooked on something, other people, they want to drink the Kool-Aid too, right? They're like, oh my gosh, if you love yourself so much, if you're all about yourself and you're building yourself, and I'm not talking about in a conceited way, I'm talking about in just an appreciation way and building yourself up, taking care of yourself, somebody else is going to see that and appreciate it. They'll drink your Kool-Aid. And if somebody doesn't feel like they've met that person yet, if they feel like they're looking for love or they're not sure if they're in the relationship, I would tell them to focus on themselves and be the best of them that they can be, and someone else will see that light.
We were both single for 3 years, I think, like the same time frame. We were both single and focusing on ourselves for 3 years before we got together.
And do you think it would not have worked out if you would have started dating 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, we already talked about it. I didn't know him that well, but the little bit that I knew of him, I was like, nope, never would have happened.
Why?
I mean, I was also in a different mindset back then, but he would just do things in college that I didn't approve of.
I was young and I was a partier.
I was not a partier.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't that I would judge people, but I was more closed off to that type of person. I was looking for somebody that was more like me. So I've heard plenty of stories of how he was, and I was just like, I never would have probably given you the time of day. Like, it just would have not worked out. And if we would have started dating, I don't think it would have continued. So
see, and that's, again, it just goes back into like focusing on yourself, so you can be ready for that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I wasn't ready at that age, and I think everything happens at the right time when it's supposed to. I don't know if you ever are ready, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think you always just work towards it. And I know where my priorities were then, the things I was focusing on, they're not what I'm focusing on today. The person I was at 20 is different than the person I was at 25. The person I am today is different than I was at 25. And I know I'm going to continue to change, and the values rearrange as you get older. So I think, back then, I wouldn't blame her for not dating me.
And then you mentioned, Jess, you said you just have that feeling that you know that he's the one, and I've heard Ted say the same thing. So, and Ted said in our podcast that we did together, like, he gave the reasons of why he knew you were special, so people can go back and listen to that.
Yeah.
But, like, what about Ted just makes you feel like...
Sure you don't want to share some of that today?
We can do it.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
You're calling me out for not listening to that podcast, but yeah, I didn't listen. But
and I said she would too.
Yeah, that's funny.
So, I mean, you want to know the reasons of like why I think that, or why I know that he's the one?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it took some time. I really didn't know this until this past No, it was last Christmas. Yeah, because this Christmas we were already living together. It was last Christmas. I remember I was like, I don't know what went through my head, but I was driving to go meet my friend. I was back in New York meeting up with one of my college girlfriends, and I think he may have texted me something or whatever, and I was also just like so excited to like share more about him with her. And for some reason I just remember driving and I was like, I really think that he's the one, and I was like, I want to capture this moment because I know I forget a lot of things. Yeah, and I was like, I just want to bottle this up because like it was the first time that I ever had that feeling.
That's dope.
And I mean, the reasons why, I mean, they really are endless, but I mean, when we first started dating, probably within the first I want to say a couple of months, I think. Remember the list that I went over with you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I had a list. So this is the time where I know Ted kind of touched on it. He says you need to focus on like yourself and loving yourself. The minute I turned 16, we'll kind of backtrack a little bit, but as soon as I turned 16, my parents had a rule. They said when you're 16, you can start dating. They didn't know that the minute I turned 16, I'd have a boyfriend. They're like, we would have changed it to 18. So I started dating at 16, and I always had long-term relationships, and they just kind of like that high school one went for 3 years so, maybe 4 years, went into college, got out of that relationship, fell into another one for a couple of years, and then that one was a really hard breakup. It was just a bad relationship in general. And at that point, I was 23, I want to say. I think I was 23 years old. And I was analyzing where I was, the type of like man that I want to be with. And I was like, let's focus on me and let's write down, because like when you date, you find out what you like about somebody and what you don't. And it's huge. I mean, some people find their one and it's the one and done, and that's awesome. But most of the time you go through like, okay, what worked, what didn't, what do I want, what would I not tolerate? So I had a whole list of what I was looking for. And when we started dating, it like gave me like goosebumps, because I was like, wait, I have to go back to this list. I wish I knew. I thought about it coming here, and I was like, I don't even know where that list went now.
That would have been awesome.
I know. I wanted to find it. It may be in my diary. Who knows? But I went and found that list, and he checked off everything. And I know they always say, yeah, whatever.
Brushing my shoulders off.
This is where you cover your ears, because your head's going to get too big. But he checked off that list, and I showed it to him, and he was like, did you write this about me? And I was like, I wrote this like 3.5 years ago. So, I mean, it's just multiple things. Like, he lets me be myself. I think when you said, like, we started dating, but we became friends right before we started dating, and it just flowed naturally. So he's somebody that instantly, like, let me be myself. Motivated me, supported me, and his positivity, his energy is just like what attracted me the most to him. I know you like to say it's when I saw you in a wife beater, but that was not the first time.
It was when she saw me in a wife beater. I was folding laundry. He
was like, I was getting my shit together. But it was just the energy that he attracted to, like, I was attracted to that. That's like, cool. Everybody else around, like, he just, like, spreads that love, and he's so happy. And he's just really, like, as we've been dating, like, and I've grown to be a better version of myself. Like, I know they say, like, oh, you're going to find somebody who's your better half. But, like, I think he is my better half, but, like, we balance each other out so well that, like, I mean, he makes myself feel whole. They say, like, oh, you need somebody else to make you feel whole. He's, like, inspired me to make myself feel whole.
Ooh, I like that. Hold on, we're really going to break this down, because I believe that it's not necessarily two halves. Like, I get that meaning, but like two wholes coming together.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know, it's like you're two full people, focus on yourself, and then you
somebody can't actually
that.
Complete you.
But I like that, how you said, it's like you're fulfilling yourself, but he also like magnifies or inspires you to fulfill yourself even more. That's really cool. I've actually never heard it put that way.
I like it. Go ahead, baby.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of... There's plenty of reasons, but I'm not going to go through that list.
Keep going.
I'm not going to go through that list. You're used to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, what about you, Ted?
Well, I mean, there's just a purity about her. And I see that every day. I see the purity, the innocence. It's almost like the evil in the world hasn't penetrated her. And I don't know if that makes sense, but it's every time I look at her, I see that genuineness, innocence, and for me, like I said, when I mentioned I have something to lose now, there's a natural urge and a natural instinct for me to want to protect that. And she's the same way. I'm more analytical than I am emotional. And I remember doing the personality test, the Myers-Briggs. And we haven't done it officially, but we've gone through it.
He took it for me.
Breaking it down.
He told me what I was.
I told her what she was. But she agreed to some degree. But pretty much we're opposite in every category. And on paper, it says we're the hardest to work as a relationship. Really? But it also says we have the most to gain from a relationship.
Ooh.
And I remember early on when we started dating, I realized quickly that she is good at everything I'm bad at. Everything I'm good at, she's like, hey, can you help me because you can do this?
Yeah.
And I just realized our opposite. I'm more of like scatterbrain and like, let's just go. She's more analytical, strategy, planning. And I remember looking at her, I was like, baby, if we figure this out, we're gone. Like, let's go.
Like, did you actually talk about that? Like, do you remember him saying that? Like, if we figured this out, like, it'll be unstoppable type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, he says it all the time. So.
Man, I love that. That's so cool.
He says it all the time. But
I love it.
Yeah, and that's why, like, learning how to communicate was huge, because we're so different, we see the world different, and then kind of focusing on having the same goals, having the same vision has been a priority for a while, and working on that helps the difference in perspective come together. Yeah. And I mean, having the humility, not being too prideful, and realizing, okay, maybe you get this. Like, even on the way here, we're parking. And I was like, she was like, oh, there's a spot. I was like, oh, we're going to have a hard time finding a spot. She's like, oh, there's a spot there. There's a spot there. I was like, whew, babe, you got the eyes. I got the wheel. Let's go.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Just doing that.
So, like, I want to talk about, because they say opposites attract, but I have also heard that, like, being opposite, like, long term can wear on a relationship, because you're just butt heads. Like, it attracts you initially, but you just butt heads after long term. I wouldn't guess that you guys are opposite. I would say you complement each other. Maybe you guys have worked on that a lot. But what's like one story of like butting heads? And then we'll start there. Just
story?
one. Yeah.
Baby?
I mean, gosh, I'm trying to think of, like, I mean, there's so many times that we butt heads. We still always do. But, like, the main thing, I mean, I'll try to think of a story, too. But I think we try to understand each other, but we also want our points heard. But I think, like, I know other relationships, like, you might just fight, and it's just, like, not a good type of fight. Ours is just always fighting, because, like, we love each other so much, and we want the other person to understand what we're trying to get across to them.
Cool.
You know, so that's very different. So sometimes we're like, wait, we're saying the same things right now, and they're like, but we're saying it differently. Yeah. We've done the 5 love languages, and we're very different in that. But what's a story where we butt heads?
I remember.
Yeah. I told you that's the part I'm not good at. Once it's gone, it's in the past.
Well, I think when we were first dating, she was in Charlotte, I was here. And there were a lot of times my job would require me to stay here for the weekends and things like that. And there were sometimes we'd go 2 weeks without being able to see each other. And I started to notice that towards the end of the 2 weeks, we'd get into an argument over something dumb. And I think one day I was coming back from a guy's trip with my friends, and I called her to catch up at the end of the trip, and she was going out with some friends. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go home and watch a movie. 30 minutes left in the movie, she tried to FaceTime me. I was like, hey, babe, I'm watching a movie. Can I call you when it's done? That wasn't a good idea. So she was like, why don't you want to make time for me? Why don't you want to spend time with me? Like, I haven't seen you for 2 weeks. And that became an argument. But what I picked up on the fact is, again, us seeing things differently. I'm okay with, speaking to you at the start of the weekend, the end of the weekend. I could put that off. She'll want to have that communication more. She'd want to have more communication, especially when we're not seeing each other.
Yeah.
And our discussion was me having to be more aware of that, because I'd go all day and not text her because I'm captivated in what's going on in the day. I'd have to learn how to, on my lunch break, say, hey, babe, thinking about you. Be a little bit more verbal of what I'm feeling, because I might think, oh, yeah, I wonder how Jess is doing. But if I don't communicate that, she doesn't know I'm thinking about her. So I had to learn how to communicate that.
Somebody had to tell you to say I love you to me.
Yeah. Well, they asked me, and I realized, I was like, oh, snap.
That.
And like, did you tell her? I was like, no, I didn't. They're like, well, you should probably tell her. So for me, it was learning how to verbalize my feelings and my thoughts. And for her, she was kind of sitting there like, hey, where you at? And I think that was one understanding. We were butting heads early in the relationship, but I've come a long way.
Yeah, that's cool. And like a huge thing that you guys are talking about is understanding where the other person's coming from and that you see things differently. And I think that's so easy to say, but incredibly difficult to practice.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't, especially in relationships, just because that's like your main thing. Like work, it might be a little bit easier for some reason. I think for work, because it's almost, I'm like less attached to it, that I can understand the perspective easier.
Yeah.
But in relationships, I've been like, no, you need to see my point of view, instead of taking ownership and saying like, okay, let me understand your point of view.
Yeah.
And we're always working through that. I mean, communication is tough, especially when you're not the same with that type of thing. So we're not perfect in any means. We still will fight about certain things. But it's always out of like love. So like even for that, like yeah, we do have to meet halfway for a lot of stuff. So we're different where he can go a whole like 2 weeks without seeing me and he's like, hey, how you doing? Like, and me, it's like I'm like, okay, I'm now finally at that point where I'm like, I want to see you, and I'll see other couples and like things like that will bother me is like we're living long distance. So I'm like, oh, it's Thursday and it's now getting warmer and happy hour. It's like things that I wanted to do with you that we can't. And it's just things that you just like start to balance out though, like how it works for you. And that's why we would cherish the weekends that we had together, even if they were at the time when we first started dating, it was just while he was working, and I got a behind the scenes of the news, but
she got a lot of behind the scenes of the news. I remember we watched Elf in our studio. It was around Christmas time. She came.
You never saw it.
I never saw it. And it was a Saturday. We were sitting in the studio. We were wrapped up under a blanket. I was ready for the show. Really? And it was just a Saturday in the studio watching Elf on my laptop. And that's how we spent some of a lot of our weekends when we first started dating, was me at work and her just
every weekend
hanging out.
I came to Greenville.
Really? That's
and I had just lived in the city for only we started dating when I was only in Charlotte for about 3 months. I told myself I wasn't going to get into a relationship because I moved there for me. He told me he wasn't getting into a relationship because he was on his way out. That he thought he was leaving Greenville, and things just
let's talk about that, because you guys met each other at a point of Jess, I just got out of a 2-year relationship. It didn't go well, so of course it doesn't matter what man you meet, it's just a sour taste in your mouth of just relationship. And Ted, you're waiting for your contract to end, you can go anywhere in the U.S. To be an inker or a meteorologist. And there's a lot we could talk about here, but how did you guys really get through that? Or what can you talk to about you're almost going away, but somehow you found each other? It's just very interesting, individually you're going away and you wanted to be single, but you came together. I'm sure there were struggles with that. So Jess, let me ask you, you both are driven, so we can talk about individually how you support each other in your own hustles right now. But at that time, you're a driven single woman, moved to a new city, and then you meet this dude who lives a couple hours away.
Messes it all up.
What that's got to be just an interesting.
I'm not religious. I'm more spiritual than I am religious. But after that hard relationship that I went through, I had told myself, okay, I'm going to focus on myself. And I was like, please, God, the next man that I really fall for, please let it be the man that I marry.
Cool.
And I think I was just stricter on myself from that point on, that of course I didn't date many people, but I knew more of what I was looking for. So yes, I was driven. I was determined to live in a city by myself. I didn't know anybody, didn't have a job or anything. When we got together, it was really more so just as a friendship. And even when we first, we didn't just meet up and at Memorial Day after that spark, we instantly started dating. It was just we started seeing each other more. And I think we were seeing each other for 2 to 3 months before we actually became official with it. And it was just natural and easygoing. And I kept asking myself, I'm okay, let me really reflect on these feelings that I have. Am I into him in this way? Am I lonely because I'm in a new city? Yeah. So, and I would just definitely analyze that, but it was something that no matter what I did, I just couldn't put it on the side. There was something about it that just kept telling me to pursue it a little bit more.
Yeah. I'm getting chills, yo.
Yeah. I mean, for me, my eyes were towards the door, you know? And I think our different scenarios was it didn't work against us. I think it forced us to have real conversations early on in the relationship.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, I like that.
It really did. 4 months in.
Yeah.
We had some serious talks that Ted did not like.
It's what are we going to do? And I do remember looking at her at one point, and I was like, listen, we've been together for 4 months. You're not supposed to pick me over a city. Yeah. And kudos to her. She put her foot down.
Well, at the time, he was looking at St. Louis and Miami as 2 possible options to go to. And so I told him, I was I've done long distance my entire life. I just moved here. I was I really like you, but I was if you move to one of those cities, that's the end of this relationship. Yeah. I was and I don't want you to choose me over it, but I was he's well, Miami's not no, I think you did say Miami's not that far or whatever. You're you could just it's a flight. I'm it's a flight, an expensive flight. And I was I've seen it work. It just doesn't work in our favor if it's meant to be, maybe down the road, but I just can't do that to myself.
Yeah.
And that caused a little bit of a hardship between us.
Well,
But
I mean, it was like, because I was willing to try it, you know, but I also did tell her, like, you don't have to pick a city over me.
Yeah.
We're still early in the relationship. But, you know, it did sting knowing that, like, okay, if you move away, we're done. Like, you wouldn't even try. So it did sting, and I didn't know her perspective of long-distance relationships. So my introduction to it was like, oh, yeah, we can do this. All positivity, right? But I also did tell her, when I'm coming up with the next move in my career, when I'm deciding what to do, I can't factor her in it. And I know that stung too, because it's just like, I went with, if I make a career decision based off of this relationship, the relationship becomes hard and my career becomes impossible.
Yeah.
If I make a career decision, this relationship could become hard, but my career does not become impossible. And I think we were early on in the relationship, and we just had to honestly be direct with each other in terms of what we wanted and what we expected, and hope for the best.
Yeah, that's really cool. So that's an important lesson, I think, for everyone. It's just like honest, hard conversations to start off that way.
Yeah.
But you have to be mature to have those conversations.
Yeah, like not get offended, like, oh,
Yeah.
like, you dick, like, like
I mean,
how dare you?
being honest, most of the time those questions are coming from girls in the relationship. It's always like, so where do
Yeah.
you see this going? Where do
Yeah.
you see, like, what are you looking for? And I mean, and those are not the questions like, we were not trying to have this type of talk because we just wanted to let it flow naturally. But I think that's really important. If you're going to have those talks, you both need to be ready for it, and you both need to be mature enough to be able to handle the answers.
Yeah, who's the more sensitive one in the relationship? Okay, I was gonna guess
Yeah,
that.
that's hands down.
Were you like, did you
He
get
even
offended?
told me, he's like, don't cry on this podcast, okay? I was like, but I'm emotional.
Did you get offended with how honest he was sometimes?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like, yeah.
And it took some time for me to learn, like, he said this over and over to me. He says, Jess, sometimes you say things to me that come across like not even inconsiderate. It's just things that come off harsh because I'm kind of blunt with things that I say. And so he goes, but I've learned that you're coming from a good place when you say it. And so when he kind of put that on me, it like held up a mirror to me, because I'm like, okay, same thing happens when he does it. I take things a certain way, or we've had another conversation on expectations and what I expect from him,
expectations.
which always, that's never good to have.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's why, more reasons of why I love him. It's like he opens me up to different perspectives, and because of that, I'm like, I have to remember, okay, he probably says this because he literally has no idea that I was expecting this from him, or I wanted him to do this for him.
I think that's really cool what you said of like almost expecting the best out of someone, or like why they're doing that is coming from a place of love.
Yeah.
So I think the automatic trigger is just to not, it's like, oh my gosh, they're doing this to hurt me, or oh, it's like a place of fear
Yeah.
instead of love.
I think it's when somebody who knows you, and I could speak from my perspective as a guy, you know, when she says something, it cuts deep. And not a lot of people could say things that affect me, cut me, offend me. But when she says something, it cuts deep because she knows me, you know? And it almost is like I'm exposed and there's no armor. So when something cuts, it almost feels like a betrayal. But you have to check it yourself and kind of like count to 2, count to 3, and be like, okay, she meant that from a good place.
Yeah.
She's trying to help, not hurt. And, you know, breathe, and then maybe ask her what she meant by that to clarify.
Ooh.
That was something I think we worked on, especially when I would say things that were a little blunt, and I would see her emotional reaction right away. And I would say, hold on, is there something I said that you took the wrong way that we should clarify before we move on into the conversation? Because we can go 10 minutes down, but something I said 10 minutes ago, she's still offended or hurt by.
Yeah.
And she can't get past that because she might have misinterpreted the meaning behind it.
Wait, that's dope. So, because there's tons of love in this relationship and I can feel it, like the emotional and the feels. However, I think it's important to also talk about like tactically of when the emotions get the best of you, of what you just said is really important for people to focus on. What you said of, like, can you just repeat that again? Of like, what's the question to ask if you get triggered that way, or you feel like there's a misunderstanding?
Yeah, if I see an emotional response or something, you have to kind of you have to listen with your ears and your eyes. So her body language to me, I pick up on her body language a lot. And I know when I say something that like stings. So I go, hold on, did you misinterpret something I said that we should clarify? Because
I love that.
she can make a conclusion in her head that I didn't mean. And I could understand why she would take it a certain way, but giving me the opportunity to clarify it before we move on can save us a whole bunch of back and forth.
Dude, that's awesome. And then you guys mentioned before, Ted, that you have something to lose now.
Yeah.
And you've never felt that before. And I mean, like, this is vulnerable, so thanks for going here. For real. But I want to ask you guys about, like, need versus love. And I feel like I've heard relationships people mention, even like at marriage toasts and stuff, you know, like, I need you. I don't know what I would do without you. But I think married couples, I don't hear anyone really say, like, hey, I love you and you maximize my potential. You truly make, like, you're amazing. Like you guys have mentioned, like, you make me better. However, for whatever reason it didn't work out, like, I'll move on and I'll be fine. So what are your guys' like reaction or just thoughts about that in general, of how that could help almost a relationship, of almost not relying on it? Does that make sense, of like relying on it and having a need so much that it's almost you're afraid to lose it instead of embracing the moment and the time that you have?
Yeah. I mean, and that's a really good question. But I mean, I think that's also depending on where that is, whether whether that's a marriage or just a new relationship or what. I think that always, like anything in a relationship, comes down to self-reflection, because you want to kind of look into, why do you need that person? Like I said, like, he's not my other half. Like, and we've talked about two wholes. He made me become a whole. So if for whatever reason something wasn't to work out between us, is it going to hurt? Yes. I'm emotional. Am I going to cry? Yes. But I'm going to be able to keep going, you know? And if anything, it's just going to thank that person for making me who I am. But I would definitely be wanting to reflect on why you feel like you need something, because you're probably missing out on something yourself that you found in him. So
love that. Preach.
Yeah.
That's dope. Ted, what are your thoughts, dude?
I mean, I think in order for a relationship to be healthy, each individual person has to be healthy themselves. And a lot of times when you fall into a relationship of need, it becomes a burden on that other person. And I tell this story of, we have a desk in our apartment, right? And it came one Sunday after a tiring weekend, and Jess was like, Ted's gonna build a desk when we get home. And I was like, I'm gonna
like,
do
in
what?
your head you were like that?
No, she said it out loud.
That's where we're different. Like, I get things done quickly, and he'll sit on it for a little bit.
I'll sit on it, schedule it, find out, I could do that. And
I'm
in my
tracking
head,
the shipment, and I'm like, okay.
I'm thinking, I'm really tired. I have a busy week coming up. I could probably do it Friday. It came Sunday, and she's like, Ted's gonna build a desk today. I said, I'm gonna do what? And she's go, right? That's where we're opposite. I can kind of put that off to later. It's not urgent. She's like, I got to do it now. So Monday she starts building this desk, and she's like, are you gonna help me? And I looked at her. I was like, no, I'm not gonna help you. You got this. Tuesday she's putting it together.
I enjoy doing those things too.
Yeah. Tuesday she's putting it together. Wednesday we finally stand it up, and she's so proud. And I smiled, and she's like, what? I'm like, that's why I didn't help you, to let you know you could do that by yourself. I think it's easy when we live with somebody, we have somebody right there to just ask for help right away, even though when you don't necessarily need it. So that was like just my little thing.
You did take that a bit too far. There was one moment I needed you, and you're like, nope, I'm letting you do this whole thing by yourself so you can be happy afterwards.
Well,
I'm like,
kicking back.
I was like,
this is a lesson, baby. This is a lesson for you.
Right?
That's not.
I'm like, I know you go to
from the
sleep.
fridge?
Yeah. I know when you go to sleep early.
Which
go to
we
sleep
also
with one eye open.
talked about that being probably our different parenting styles. But I mean, I let her kind of struggle through it, push through it. She wasn't in danger or anything, but she's putting together a desk. But seeing her face when she stood the desk up, that's why I did it. She was so proud of herself. She was so happy. And it's those little things where, like, as men, we want to be needed. Yeah. I want to be the dude that opens the jar for her. I want to be the dude that gets the jar off the top shelf. But at the same time, we have a 9.9-inch stool underneath that makes her 6'2", so she could reach the top shelf if I wasn't home. So she does a good job at letting me know I'm needed, but I know she's independent and she could hold her own if she had to.
That's dope. This is a really cool conversation. as we've talked about being individuals in a relationship quite a bit tonight, which is awesome. And I know you guys each have your individual hustles. So how do you schedule time for each other, or how does that work? Because you both have day jobs and passions that you're working towards, and each other, and a dog, and you want to have fun and like work out. So how do you intertwine all that?
It's hard. We do have a date night, which tonight is our date night. So.
Yeah. I texted her. I said, "Hey, babe, can we do Thursday to record this?" She goes, "That's date night." I said, "I know." But
yeah.
hopefully you guys are stronger.
Well, the funny thing is we do have a date night, but we don't always stick to it. So I think we are both. We're trying to do better at that. I would say it is a little bit easier because I work from home just a couple of days a week, so we're able to see each other with his schedule. When he comes home at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm doing my work. Like, we're in the same room together, but I do try to make it a priority to at least do something together, and we've been focusing on that more because we're definitely still struggling in that department. But I mean, I think I definitely push that a little bit more just because Ted will be sitting on the couch and I'll just like run over to him and be like, "Love me."
yeah.
Like, wherever he is, I'll just go and like grab him for like a hug or something.
Yeah.
But we are trying to get a little bit better with that.
I think for me, that self-realization is sometimes I just get into tunnel mode. I get focused on my to-do list and what I have to do and what the next thing is. And I can admit sometimes it's hard to stop and acknowledge what's there. And sometimes I do catch myself. I'll stop, poke my head out of the office or something, like, "Hey, babe, I see you. I acknowledge you. I recognize you." You know, kind of check in, because I know it's easy for me to just put my head down and go, and not stop and smell the roses.
Yeah.
And we talk about balance and completing each other. She checks me on that. I think if it wasn't for her, we probably wouldn't have gone on any vacations in a long time. And she's like, "When are we gonna go on vacation?" I'm like, "Well, I guess we gotta do that too."
Well,
but
with us,
I'm always thankful for it.
Yeah, with us, I mean, and I think this goes for any relationship or what you're striving for. We understand, we're learning and understanding each other's needs. So I give him the space that he needs to do his hustle. Obviously, I'm doing mine. But the thing is, like, I will give him his space, but then he knows I need the time. So after he's had his time there, he'll make it. If it's not that night, just like this last weekend, he had a buddy here. He was exhausted. We never got to go see Aladdin when we were going to go see it. So he made time Monday after work. He just texted me a bunch of numbers, and I was like, "What is that?" He goes, "Those are show times." He's like,
I love it.
He's like, "Which one do you want to go see Aladdin?" And we did that. So it's like, I will give him his space, but in return, he will give me the time.
That's so cool. And what that sounds like, just tell me what you guys think of this phrase is, like, you deserve someone who makes you a priority.
Oh, yeah. I think when life gets busy, it's easy to neglect the things that we love, right? But it's always, she knows that she's my ambition. She's like my why. And when we talk about our goals, our dreams, and what we're working towards, that's always part of the vision. It's her. So for me, setting those movie times or thinking about Aladdin, it's like, this was an awesome weekend. It was a busy weekend, but it's like our quiet times together are some things I cherish the most. I think it was after we went to see Aladdin, or actually it was after my friend flew out. Sunday night, we were laying on the couch watching a movie. The dog was playing with the bone, and honestly, like, I just looked around, and that was probably, out of all the fun and all the friends and everything, that was probably my favorite part of last weekend.
I love that, man.
Yeah, you always have the weirdest moments that he started acknowledging them. He'd be like, he's like, I'll just be like doing nothing, and he'll just be like, "I love you." He's like, "It's moments like this that, like, I love you." And I was like, "I was just sitting here." But
that's awesome, man. Like, I love that, and that's why I think, I mean, you two are just like awesome people, and I just like feel that the genuine just vibes.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so cool about it, is like those moments are, again, like what truly matter. Just like
Yeah, and those
Just
are
chilling,
those are
you know?
small moments, but then even when we have our big moments, like what you mentioned both of our side hustles. Every time Ted would make a sale, he would send me DJ Khaled and have like another one. Every single time, even if it was like 7, 10, 15 in a row, he would send it to me.
That's
and
awesome.
today I had a really great day too. I added another person to my team, and it's things like I want to wait to get home and tell him because I want to see his expression on his face, but I'm just too excited. So it's like the first person I'm gonna go to is him. So I'll text him and be like, I had a good day. Remind me to tell you later. But I think that's when you know you're a priority, is if through little moments of laying on the couch or big moments in your business, you're able, that's the first person you go to. I think that says a lot.
That's dope. What's one piece of advice? Or actually, I'm going to flip it this way. Let's say you have a girl and you have a boy, child. How would you teach them about relationships? Let's start with the girl first. Like, what would you tell her as she's growing up?
Oh, it falls on me.
Ladies first.
We've had this conversation because we've had this conversation, and I've already spotted a few things where Ted would be different with a guy and a girl. And I was like, I was like, I didn't have a brother growing up. I always wanted one. But for me, raising a boy and a girl, I want it to be the same, you know? And I think it's just, I want to raise our daughter to respect herself, because nobody else will respect her if she doesn't respect herself. And I want her to really love herself and just chase whatever dreams that she has, but know that like she doesn't like the need versus love. She doesn't need anybody else to be there to make her stronger. Like, she is strong. We're gonna raise her to be strong. And yeah,
I love that.
I think when I look at Jess, I've had the pleasure of sitting down and having a good deep conversation with her dad. And if we're talking about a little girl, I want her to know she's loved without question. And I think that's important, because the awesome thing about Jess is she knows she's loved without question. Her dad's an amazing guy, amazing man.
That's cool.
And for my daughter, I think my focus would be making sure that whatever she does in life, put herself as a priority, work hard, do her best. But regardless of the outcome, she is loved unconditionally by a man, by somebody. And I think with that forward, she won't need any other man's validation. She won't need any other person's validation, because she's got everything she needs at home with her mom and dad. I'm excited. I can't wait to raise a little boy. And I say that just because everything I'm doing with the modern man, I would teach a little boy that the world is his responsibility. And not the world, but his world. And I teach a little girl that too. You know, it's boy or girl, the world is your responsibility. But for a son, I think I put a little bit more oomph in that, because, you know, as men, we do have the ability to destroy and create, and women do too, but like, we have the testosterone, we have a strength about us. You know, on a given day, you know, I'm stronger than Jess. I have to be a protector, not an aggressor. And I would want my son to be that. I would want him to take responsibility of the world around him, fight for what's good, build something better. I want his presence to have a ripple effect on the world that people are going to remember in a positive light. And I try and do that in my example, and I would only hope that I make some footsteps that my son can follow in.
That's good.
that's awesome. Yeah, and I would be the overprotective mom, but never leave your mother. No, but I just think, I do know that guys have a lot of pressure on them, and I would want to make sure that there's open communication with him, that he knows that he can come to either Ted or myself to talk about anything. I definitely would want to raise him to be strong, but I'd also want to have a little weakness to him, and weakness where he can be himself and emotional, and like the whole like, boys don't cry. No, you're not going to start like crying a whole bunch of tears all the time, but it's like you can show your emotions, and that's okay, because the girl that you're with is going to value that, you know? Ted doesn't cry that often. I think there's been a couple of times, and like sometimes it does scare me, because most guys don't know that they can do it, and Ted's one that he doesn't do it often. So I'm like, okay, something's going on if it's like this. So I just want to like teach them that, and just like not to let the world eat you up with all the pressure that's out there. Like, we will discuss like, what is it that you really want? Like, some people, when you have like, if you're some fathers that are really like Ted's gonna be an entrepreneur and everything, I know he'll never put pressure on his son, but some people that want the same for their kid, if that's not within them, I want them to be happy and be able to share with us what their goals are, even if it doesn't match what we have for them.
Man, you guys are gonna be dope parents, man. I'm pretty stoked. But like, yeah, for real, I'm excited. So you mentioned the pressure on boys. What do you think that is, to be like tough or to be like successful, or what is that pressure?
All of it.
Yeah.
Tough, successful, strong.
Well, there's pressure on both, you know.
Yeah.
The moneymaker.
I think there's pressure on both, and they're different forms of pressure. I think for a boy, a lot of it's validation. I think as boys growing up and men, we want to be accepted. We want to be needed. We want to be accomplished. And, you know, I mean, think of the pat on the back, good job. You know, that feels so good to a little boy.
It does.
It feels so good. And we want to do a good job. And I think it's important, you know, because ladies listening, like, you set the tone, ladies, because, you know, these men, these boys, they want a good job from you. They want that pat on the back.
That's very true.
So
Yeah.
it's important for them.
And I think we'll both be good with like treating a girl right. You know, like that's huge for me, just because I know things are getting a lot looser nowadays with guys. And like, I know, like, I want, like, Ted, I don't know how he was specifically, but I have a pretty good idea, even throughout college when it comes to girls. Like, he was respectful to them.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I want. I never want, like, my son to make a girl feel less than, like, and less than, just, like, not worthy of something. So, like, I know when the minute he starts walking and stuff and can open a door, he will be opening a door, because it's not the whole chivalry is dead, you know?
I actually, on the way here, Thursdays are always date night. I don't do it always, but I try and walk around, open the door for her,
Yeah.
getting in the car. And, you know, I get that from my dad, you know? So he's always been that guy, smooth, gentleman-like, suave. And, you know, I think those are important qualities to have.
That's awesome. Well, do you guys have like anything else to add, whether it's relationships, just love, whether it's for yourself, for other people? Love to confess for each other.
No.
Do you guys have anything else that you want to say?
I mean, my main thing, I guess, is just don't feel the need to always be in a relationship. I know some people feel like they rush to be in a relationship, where they stay in a relationship that's not right,
Yeah.
just so that they're not alone. And so I guess the main thing that I've learned is that it's okay to be alone, because being alone is better than being lonely in the relationship, like they
Ooh,
say.
I love that.
So I would just be comfortable being by yourself before you take on anything else.
But that's easier said than done. Like,
It's
Yeah.
completely
like
is.
people say it,
Yeah.
but like I felt it recently, like moving to this city, that like even in the moment when I consciously make the decision because I want to be uncomfortable and I want to grow, it's still like when it actually happens, it's like, oh shit, like this is hard.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
yeah.
then but that's where like the growth is.
Yeah, and you
You
just
know?
have to be dedicated. Like I said, we were
Yeah.
both single for 3 years. Like, I don't think you were talking to anybody, but like I know I wasn't like actually talking to anybody and just not being like, oh, well, we weren't dating. Like, I was like committed to just being by myself until I felt it was the right time. So
That's awesome.
it definitely is easier said than done. But if you're committed to just finding yourself and being okay by yourself, that's my main thing.
I would say, and I don't know if I told this story the last time, of the two hunters. And
Oh, the flower.
yeah, in the flower, you have a wise hunter and you have a not so wise hunter, right? And they both go into the forest. The not so wise hunter finds the most beautiful flower in the forest and falls in love. So what does he do? He takes it out of the ground, puts it in a pot, brings it home, cherishes it, and loves it until 2 weeks later the flower dies because it was taken out of its element. Now the wise hunter goes into the same forest, finds the most beautiful flower, falls in love with the flower, builds a little fence around it, cuts the trees around it so it can get plenty of sunshine, puts some fertilizer around it, facilitates the flowers grow, and ends up having a long, wonderful life with it. Babe, you're my flower, and I'm the wise hunter. And I think my only job in this relationship is to admire her beauty and give her the best environment to grow and be her full self. And that's the goal. I think that should be the goal in relationships. You know, let that flower grow. Don't change it.
Okay,
Enough
that's
said.
freaking it. I love that, dude. That's dope. Well, for real, thank you guys for being honest. Thank you for being here. Really, I really appreciate you both.
And I didn't
Thank you.
cry.
And you didn't cry. Ted, Jess, you guys are awesome. We're done.
Ben,
Yes.
thanks.
Woo!
All right, y'all. Hope you enjoyed that interview with Ted and Jess. If you want to know more about Goalink, here's what you need to do. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook at Goalink Group, and that is where you'll find the weekly challenges. At the end of each podcast episode, we put out these challenges every Sunday, and then we ask you to report back. So the community, whether it's sharing it on your Instagram stories, posting it on Facebook, YouTube, it's sending me a DM. We actually even have a hotline, so check in the description below if you want to know how to report back. It's a form of accountability, so we make sure we're rejoicing and celebrating each other's successes, and we're holding each other accountable. So this week's challenge for everyone looking to level up and experience new things in life, we are going to do this challenge, and it's going to be take yourself out on a date, which is funny because obviously we just got done talking with a couple, but if you notice, they talked about how important it is to fall in love with yourself first, right? And you cannot expect someone to complete you, and you don't want to have to expect to complete someone, right? And two wholes are coming together. And so that's why the challenge this week is to take yourself on a date, whether you're single, dating for a month, years, or married for years, recently broken up, doesn't matter. That take yourself on a date, go to a movie. What do you love to do? Go treat yourself, man. Of course, I'm going to release my content, so look out for that. I'm going to release taking myself on a date. And if you want to report back, I'd love to. Tag me in your stories. Use hashtag Goalink Challenge. Look at the information below to call the hotline if you don't have social media but you still want accountability. So my name is Ben. This is the Goalink Show. Make sure you follow us at Goalink Group for all the challenges and all fun other content we do. We get transparent, we get vulnerable. Thanks and welcome.